We travel into the future, although slowly, all the time. But what about the past? Could we journey into yesterday? Many physicists think that this is fundamentally impossible, that there is no way we could build a device which would carry us backwards into time. Some say that even if we were to build such a device, it wouldn't do us much good, that we couldn't significantly affect the past. For example, suppose you traveled into the past and somehow or other prevented your own parents from meeting. Why, then you would probably never have been born, which is something of a contradiction, isn't it, since you're clearly there. Other people think that the two alternative histories have equal validity, that they're parallel threads, skeins of time, that they could exist side by side. The history in which you were never born and the history that you know all about. Perhaps time itself has many potential dimensions, despite the fact that we are condemned to experience only one of those dimensions. Now, suppose you could go back into the past and really change it by, let's say something like persuading Queen Isabella not to bankroll Christopher Columbus. Then you would have set into motion a different sequence of historical events, which those people you left behind you in our time would never get to know about. If that kind of time travel were possible, then every imaginable sequence of alternative history might in some sense really exist. Would it be possible for a time traveler to change the course of history in a major way? Well, let's think about that. History consists, for the most part, of a complex multitude of deeply interwoven threads, biological, economic, and social forces that are not so easily unraveled. The ancient Greeks imagined the course of human events to be a kind of tapestry created by three goddesses, the Fates. Random minor events generally have no long-range consequences, but some, which occur at critical junctures, may alter the weave of history. There may be cases where profound changes can be made by relatively trivial adjustments. The further in the past such an event is, the more powerful its influence. What if our time traveler had persuaded Queen Isabella that Columbus's geography was wrong? Almost certainly some other European would have sailed west to the New World soon after. There were many inducements: the lure of the spice trade, improvements in navigation, competition among rival European powers. The discovery of America around 1500 was inevitable. Of course, then there wouldn't be any postage stamps showing Columbus, and the Republic of Colombia would have some other name. But the big picture would have turned out more or less the same. In order to affect the future profoundly, a time traveler would have to pick and choose. He'd probably have to intervene in a number of events which are very carefully selected, so he could change the weave of history. It's a lovely fantasy to explore those other worlds that never were. If you had H.G. Wells's time machine, maybe you could understand how history really works. If an apparently pivotal person had never lived, Paul the Apostle or Peter the Great or Pythagoras, how different would the world really be? What if the scientific tradition of the ancient Ionian Greeks had prospered and flourished? It would have required many social factors of the time to have been different, including the common feeling that slavery was right and natural. But what if that light that had dawned on the Eastern Mediterranean some 2,500 years ago had not flickered out? What if the scientific method and experiment had been vigorously pursued 2,000 years before the Industrial Revolution, our Industrial Revolution? What if the power of this new mode of thought, the scientific method, had been generally appreciated? I think we might have saved 10 or 20 centuries. Perhaps the contributions that Leonardo made would have been made 1,000 years earlier, and the contributions of Einstein 500 years ago. Not that it would have been those people who would have made those contributions, because they live only in our timeline. If the Ionians had won, we might by now, I think, be going to the stars. We might at this moment have the first survey ships returning with astonishing results from Alpha Centauri and Barnard Star, Sirius and Tau Ceti. There would now be great fleets of interstellar transports being constructed in Earth orbit, small unmanned survey ships, liners for immigrants, perhaps, great trading ships to ply the spaces between the stars. On all these ships, there would be symbols and inscriptions on the sides. The inscriptions, if we look closely, would be written in Greek. The symbol, perhaps, would be the dodecahedron, and the inscription on the sides of the ships to the stars, something like Starship Theodorus of the planet Earth. If you were a really ambitious time traveler, you might not dally with human history or even pause to examine the evolution of life on Earth. Instead, you would journey back to witness the origin of our solar system